What's going on, Acramans? This is James Acraman here, and today I'm going to draw my whole life. So this is a mix between draw my life and draw my stacking life updated, as there were loads of changes that went on in my life. I was born on November 20th, 1996 in a small town in England called Stevenage. There were some big celebrities that were also born in Stevenage, which are Lewis Hamilton, who is a Formula 1 driver, Rupert Grint, who is known to play as Ron Weasley from Harry Potter, and Alex Pettyfer, who is known to play as Alex Rider from Stormbreaker and other films. When I was 1, my parents found out I have eczema, which means whenever I either wear clothes which didn't have the right soap included, or if I have exercised too much, which I would start scratching my skin. It's the worst pain in the world. I still have it to this day. I mostly get it from doing a lot of sports snacking, or if I've rubbed the wrong conditioner on my skin for when I shower. The way I describe the pain is by pouring more than 2 boxes of itching powder on your skin, which you can't even stop yourself itching from, which I try not to stack a lot for this reason. A couple of years later, after I was born, I had a little sister. In October 1999, we moved to our house, which we still live in to this day. In the year 2000, I was diagnosed with atypical autism, which basically means when a person's behavior patterns fits most, but not all the criteria for typical autism, and at the same time, I have auditory retention, as many people talk too fast, which I can't work out what someone is trying to tell or teach me when it came to school or college. A few times I had to guess what the person was trying to tell or teach me when it came to the person questioning if I was paying attention. Before I get on to most of my life, I used to have a huge fear of going into the cinemas or theatres, which is kind of funny saying that as I'm hoping to be a future filmmaker. The reason why I had a fear of going to the cinemas was because I thought the characters would come out of a screen and drag me into their dimension, where I would have to live by how they want me to do their commands, or having to step into their shoes to fight the good guy's enemy. Kind of like what happened in Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I started preschool back in September year 2000 in the old town of Stevenage, which I felt I had a great time there. Then I started a nursery, which was based in a primary school, to build my confidence up to starting the actual school years. Then came September 2001, where I started at a special needs school for those who have autism or special needs. When I first started, I had a habit of whenever I saw my parents, I ended up hurting others, which came to show you wouldn't have wanted to know me when I was a lot younger, but now I have changed. Anyways, back to the story. When I was in year 2, I had a funny habit of taking school equipment home and snuck it into my book bag. Around a couple of weeks later, my teacher was wondering where some of the school equipment ended up. When she was looking into my book bag, looking really disappointed, I did get into a little trouble there. I'm sure she would have understood today. I was only young back then, and I didn't know I was meant to do that. When it came to years 2 and 3, that was when I met my best bud, Dominic Carpenter. Back then we used to have an on and off friendship, but I invited him and pretty much all my other friends from my class to my birthday party, which was at Charlie Chalk's before they got shut down and replaced it with another restaurant. So here I'm drawing a picture from when I showed you a picture of when Dominic and I were 7 and 6 years old. In 2004, I broke my arm for the first time at 7 years old. It was a scary experience. Also during 2004, I suddenly became from just a big fan of Thunderbirds to an obsessed fan of Thunderbirds as it hit the big screen. I even had my birthday party at the cinema where my friends and myself saw Thunderbirds, but boy wasn't it really loud. One of my friends ended up having to leave the screen as it was far too loud for him, but afterwards we had lunch at McDonald's, where you saw in a best friendhood video. In 2005, I broke my arm again, but went to the hospital the very next day. It wasn't as bad as 2004, but I basically went to the hospital, took the day off, and went to see robots with my dad. Also during 2005, I suddenly became obsessed with Star Wars after releasing Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. And yes, my Star Wars fonts drawing is so bad. So I ended up buying a lot of merchandise that relate to Star Wars, where I bought the Darth Vader helmet and costume, Stormtrooper costume, C-3PO costume, and at that point, that was my starting point of getting into movies. Near the end of 2005, I got a near life-size Gromit, which I got him involved in most of my videos when I started YouTube. In 2006, I left the special needs school I mentioned to you all about, as I was too clever for that school. Then for the summer holiday, we went to Florida for summer so we can go to Disneyland, Universal Studios and SeaWorld, which we were in Florida for 3 weeks, which is a long time for us, but had a blast there. I didn't even want to go home as it was too much fun. Then after the Florida trip, I started at the same school as my sister, as I wanted to learn more. I still kept in touch with Dominic and all my other friends from the school I went to. When it came to April 4th, 2007, my grandfather passed away, which I was devastated when I heard about that. I attended his funeral and got a chance to say goodbye to him. My parents didn't even know I would have wanted to attend his funeral, but I felt I had a close relationship with him. Also during the year of 2007, my family, my grandmother and myself went around the world to honour my grandfather's death and buried part of his ashes in my uncle and aunt's house in Australia, as he wanted to live in Australia at one time. But part of him does now, and the other part of his ashes was buried in the cremation park. With our around the world, we went to Hong Kong, Australia, Christchurch in New Zealand, Fiji and Los Angeles, and we in fact had a day trip to Mexico. On November 30th of 2007, I met my favourite Formula 1 driver, Lewis Hamilton. I felt he was a real inspiration to me for when it came to finding a talent that involved speed. I met him at Waterstones in Stevenage before it shut down as well, where we had a book signing of his biography, Lewis Hamilton, My Story. When I was coming to leaving that school, I set up my first YouTube channel called Caspian123456, as I was originally going to call my YouTube channel Chelsea Fan, but that name was already taken. So my dad gave me rules to not say my name, where I live, what school I go to, not giving my family details, and claim not to threaten anyone who wrote mean comments to me. But I was too immature back then and ended up breaking that rule, which I ended up getting grounded. My dad ended up telling me not to respond to hate, but respond to the polite, which I do that now. Then when we went on a round the world trip where we went to Japan, Singapore, Australia, South New Zealand, the Cook Islands and Los Angeles again. In 2009, I was introduced to sports stacking by a really good friend of mine who's also a family friend to us. Also, we went on the world's expensive cruise line, the Queen Mary 2. And guess what happened after the Queen Mary 2 trip? Yes, I broke my arm for the 3rd time. But worse than the other times I broke my arm, I ended up spending 2 days at the hospital. I had 2 wires inserted in my arm and got stitches on 2 sides of my arm. I ended up spending a week off school. I couldn't do anything but sitting down. I ended up having the excuse to leave 5 minutes early, had to stay off of PE, and I felt things just got boring. But then afterwards we found out it was a warning for myself to find out I have an ectopic heartbeat, which basically means I get tired out ever so easily because I kept giving up most of the sports, which my PE teachers were getting sick and tired about myself being a chicken, not trying to beat myself up about it. Then I realised when my really good friend introduced me to sports stacking, I decided to give it a shot. So my mum told me about The Entertainer was selling a set but didn't include an instructional DVD, so I didn't know where to start. start, but ended up using the style I believed was a correct style, but thanks to the YouTube sports stackers, I was told I'm not doing the right style. 2010 I would say was not a fantastic year, as my accounts got terminated, my grandmother passed away, which I ended up getting in a deep depression mode. Although a few parts of 2010 was really good, like when I got to meet one of my best internet friends, Cody, who is still my internet best friend to this day. 2011 started to get better. Whilst my family and I got back from our Easter holiday with my aunt and uncle who lives in France, we went out cycling. We found a baby squirrel which we believe fell out of its nest. Surprisingly, it was still alive. We tried to call up a vet to see what should we do about the incident with the baby squirrel that's lost. They told us to just release it into the wild, but we couldn't do it until we found its mother. We tried to find its mother for a week. We saw its gender was male and called him Bluebell, as we found him in the Bluebell woods. He was only around either a day or 2 days old. We didn't even know how to take care of him. Luckily, my aunt, which is my mum's sister, she's an expert on animals, so we had to feed him goat milk to keep him going. As he was progressing, we fed him cherries, apple, grapes, strawberries and raspberries. Also, whilst he was still a baby, we bought him a scrat toy from Ice Age in a charity shop, which he absolutely loved it, as we wanted to get a toy which is around the same height as him and something he will never forget. On July 16th, 2011, we gave Bluebell to the Squirrel Appreciation Society to help Bluebell to learn how to behave like a wild animal, which was very hard as we had so much fun with Bluebell. He nearly died a couple of times as he was trying to climb up the walls, which is something Spider-Man would do, so he would be known as a dare squirrel than Daredevil. And on that same year, I chose to go for the clean style for sports stacking. In 2012, I qualified for Team GB and got the time to beat in the 363, and we were given the uniform for the World Championships. Then we held a couple of Team UK meetups before the World Championships. Then came the World Championships in Germany and made it to all three sequences of the 333, the 363 and the cycle, which is not bad for the first World Championships. Then we went on the Queen Mary 2 for the third and fourth time. During the first cruise of the Queen Mary 2, we met the famous David Frost before he passed away, which me and my family felt so lucky to have the opportunity. For those who do not like President Nixon, please keep watching this video. David Frost is known for interviewing President Nixon and to make Nixon admit in the interview that he was behind all the travesty he caused in his days of being a president. The story became so popular that Ron Howard turned it into a movie. And I got to ask David Frost a question, which was, when you were witnessing the movie being made, did you feel as if you were travelling back in time to see it happen again? And he answered, yes it did. And I got to shake his hand, and I'd say that'll be the time I will never forget. On the cruise on the way back, we got to see Dominic and his family. My sister Dominic and myself got to make some videos. We suggested for Dominic to have his own channel so we can post videos on there so he can have it as his job, and for all of you not to get annoyed with him being in the same videos as myself, and for him to enjoy it. So we made a Welcome to Comedy Boy DC video, made DVD review videos and some gameplay videos on Dominic's DS. When we got home, I tried to make his channel name as Comedy Boy DC, but couldn't make it as it was already taken, so I added a 0 to make it sound like Comedy Boy DC. Then came 2013, which was a very busy year, and the year I didn't get to upload a lot of videos due to my sets wearing off, exams, world championships, where I won a medal and got the UK record in the 363 timed relay, and before I was going to start college, it ended up getting delayed as it was due to shut down, but now saved, which we then had to come up with a new name for the college, which is now called Springboard. 2014 was one successful year. as I went on ITV Anglia with Olivia Patterson, had an appearance on Blue Peter, which is an incredibly popular family TV show, and got to meet Barney, which I've always wanted to meet ever since I was hoping to go on to Prank Patrol. Also, I met Rudsey, Lindsay and Elia Fox. Also, I got to do a head-to-head race between me and Barney, but I had to wear a blindfold during the 3-3. However, Barney could see what was going on. Unfortunately, on the day we were filming for the comic newspaper, my grandfather died of old age. Then I went to South Korea for the World Championships, which at first I wasn't thinking of going to as it's a very long way from Britain. But I trained for it. I was aiming to beat the 3 UK records for the 17 to 18 age group, and I managed to beat those times. Before we were going to the World Championships, I was contacted by Isaac from HCR 104 FM Saturday Sport to see if I would be interested to get interviewed for their radio show. I replied, can we do it after the World Championships, as we're going to be leaving on Sunday? So I thought I'd ask him what the radio show is about, as I don't really listen to a lot of radio shows nowadays. When Isaac got more into detail about what the radio show is about, I was happy to get involved. Then we went on HCR 104 FM and had a great time there. All 3 of the members of the Saturday Sport are fantastic. Before I move on, congratulations Isaac and Becca for the proposal. Over a week after the World Championships, I managed to achieve my goal, which was to get my first 5 in a cycle, which I managed to film it as well, which at time was 5:96.4. After that, I was contacted by Dan, who was the assistant for Tricks and Twists for the Disney Channel. Dan described what the show is about, so I gave him my email and my dad's email, so he can email us what is going to happen. And as soon as I read it is for the Disney Channel, I felt, I have got to be dreaming. I have always wanted to get involved in Disney ever since I was a little kid, because I grew up watching Disney films a lot. So we were given permission from my college to take the day off in order to film with Disney, as they knew how much sports stacking means to me. When we went there, I thought it would be in a huge studio, but was unexpectedly filming an old warehouse by the Tower of London, which I thought was unusual, but absolutely fantastic. It felt like as if we were filming for a movie, with the makeup artist, the costume and wardrobe department, where they decide what they want you to wear. Out of all the people they chose the gold jacket for someone to wear, they picked me. I was nowhere near sure if it was going to be possible or if it would fit the lighting, so they tested it out and it worked fantastically. And carrying on, they had the director, cameraman, the sound person and a clapperboard or slateboard person, and I felt this is literally the best day of my life. Even whilst we were going out for a walk in London, and whilst it was incredibly hot outside, I still wore my jacket without feeling sweaty, and someone in the truck shouted out to me, "I love your jacket, man." So I thanked him, and yet they weren't even being sarcastic or trying to tease me or anything. So in came the filming. We had to go through a few takes, especially when it came to the traffic in the background. The director, Rob Ryan, was a fantastic director, I'd say. I felt I really wanted to get to do something like that again, as it was ever so enjoyable. When I shared on Facebook, I was on the Disney Channel and took some photos. My Facebook blew up with popularity with sports stackers and my friends. They were commenting about the outfit I wore, the channel I was on, and because of that, Speed Stacks was finally brought back to the UK after having it shut down back in 2011. So I made sports stacking history, and my Disney program was used in the opening ceremony for the World Championships 2015 and the US Nationals. I felt college had really changed me so much as a person. I then found out what I did wrong, and now I'm recommending people to go to college more often. Then I went to Level 1 Media in North Herts College in Hitchin in the performing arts area. I absolutely loved it there. Then when I turned 18 years old, I got to go out with my family to the Wetherspoons to order my first alcohol with my identification, as the legal age drinking limit in the UK is 18. In December, Dad and I started to film school Christmas performances to help me with learning more about filmmaking and to get my degree in my college course. In 2015, I was interviewed for BBC Three Counties Radio. Unfortunately, I didn't get to practice as much as I was editing the year-end review 2014 and ended up getting some harsh comments when BBC Three Counties Radio recorded me sports stacking, but luckily they explained why I didn't go that fast. The comments didn't even offend me. As most of you would have known, I started to spread the word more often about the Clearwater Marine Aquarium as their story of Winter and Hope became movies of Dolphin Tales 1 and 2. Then came the UK Championships, which it was ever so devastating to set up and to run. I got my best friend Dominic to enter the UK Championships, so I got to make sports stacking videos with him, which got him a lot of subscribers and loads of video views. So he entered the UK Championships. I got a 333 UK record for 17 to 18 year olds for around a minute, then Kieran beat it. So well done there, Kieran. Then we got the UK record for the 363 timed relay. Dominic was the first UK sports stacker to achieve all 3 UK records for his age group in a special needs category. Then Dad and I were contacted by Guinness World Records to give them a demonstration and to have the pictures taken for the 2016 Guinness Book of World Records, which was a big honour. At first I was very nervous, as they have been running their company since 1955 and have been doing it ever since. My grandmother, which is my dad's mum, used to be their accountant back in the 1960s or 1970s. I met a world record holder at the Guinness World Records headquarters, which was Lloyd Scott, who holds the world record for climbing up a 41-story Gherkin building whilst wearing an old diver's suit, which he climbed 1,037 steps to the top, which is really impressive. Then we went to Canada for the World Championships. I was recognised by a lot of famous sports stackers. They knew my name. It was amazing to see. I won 7 medals there, which 2 of them were gold. I achieved them for the cycle head-to-head relay and the 363 times relay, which I was ever so happy about. Then I finished making my final project in late May of my short sports stacking movie, A Stacker's Problem. I got quite an amount of people getting involved in helping me to make A Stacker's Problem. I decided the story for A Stacker's Problem. Most of my tutors helped me with my planning. My friend Matthew designed the movie poster. Recent Harry got involved in my cricket scene, and my parents were acting in the movie. Then Dominic and I finished college for the summer early and decided to get Dominic back on track for sports stacking, which was a fantastic idea as it came to one of his sports stacking videos was aired on TV in Indonesia, which both of us couldn't believe it, especially it was on YouTube for 12 days. Then we uploaded a video called Best Friendhood as Dominic reached 100 subscribers, so we tried to think of what can we do to show how thankful we are to have all of you as our fans. So we did our version of Boyhood and called it Best Friendhood, as Boyhood took 12 years for the filmmakers to make, and that's how long it took for my dad to film Dominic and myself aging. Then we went on the Queen Mary 2 once again and got to perform my sports stacking skills twice on the cruise and caught everyone's attention. During the talent show on the Queen Mary 2, I decided to perform sports stacking blindfolded, which made everyone's jaws drop and got loads of people coming up to us, got loads of recognizers even whilst we were touring around in Canada. Then came September 2015. The Guinness Book of World Records 2016 got released in stores and found myself in the Guinness Book of World Records 2016 in pages 68 and 69 until things suddenly went bad in my new college, which I ended up getting transferred to Da Vinci in Letchworth in the performing arts area. I was wanting to stay in North Arts College in Hitchin, but was shut down to place more houses in that area, which I felt was annoying. I wanted to give Da Vinci School more time to settle in, but things got really bad. My friend Harry ended up leaving, one of the other students suddenly left, the Da Vinci students ended up screaming and mucking about. I gave it a month, but then broke the news to my parents on the fact I couldn't handle it any longer. The main problem was North Arts College and Da Vinci agreed to pair up with each other so they can place the college students with the school students. And nearly all the college students got so fed up of this, I ended up speaking against the misbehaving Da Vinci students to show how aggravated I felt about it. We ended up having to have a meeting with one of my tutors and the head of the teachers. All they suggested to me was to have a sound cancelling headphones, kind of like the Dr. Dre beats, which didn't do a blinking thing. Things got worse and worse and worse. I then got to the point where I gave up afterwards, and that was partly why I didn't make a video for a while, due to the fact of how devastated I was, and got to the point where I wasn't even in a mood for nearly anything. So he spoke to the youth connections about the situation. At first they didn't know what to do, so the options I was given was to leave, or to either go to another college or to get a job. So I picked to go to another college. So they got some brochures from 2 different colleges that do media, but wasn't promised if I could get the place. So I chose to go to Oakland in Welling Garden City. So we spoke to them and told us they've still got some places there, which made us feel relieved. So we filled the application form. Then around a week later, we picked up my level 1 distinction certificate from Northhouse College, and on that same day, I was given a phone call from Oakland saying they don't think that they can take me on due to me getting F's in maths and English. But as soon as I mentioned about my level 1 distinction, they said, forget about what I said, please come in for an interview on December 1st. And I felt mission accomplished, and then told my parents. They were thrilled. We popped champagne to celebrate, then went in for an interview, mentioned and showed my sports stacking success, then was given an unconditional offer, which means that they want me there no matter what. I felt ever so excited and getting to learn about what I've wanted to learn about filmmaking for years. Although it was very sad for my college mates at Da Vinci to find out I am the 3rd person from the college area to leave, and surprisingly one of my tutors told me he will be leaving near the very same day as me. So I got my college friends to sign my shirt. I gave a signed copy of my signature on the Guinness Book of World Records 2016 to my closest college friend to show my appreciation he has shown me during my stressful times at Da Vinci, and got to stack for the last time there with my friend Sam recording me. Also, I forgot to mention, in November, I got reunited with HCR 104 FM. We did record the sound, but Audacity messed it up. I had my story mentioned in Your Autism magazine, which I've now accomplished magazine appearance. All I need now is a movie about my life. And yet again, I got to film my old school's Christmas performance with more realistic effects, and then I joined Oakland's. It took a while for me to get used to it there. I got to make some great friends there. I was hoping to keep my sports stacking identity a secret for another 2 days, but then was unveiled a day early. But it doesn't affect me, and yes, it is much better than Da Vinci. I'm making great new friends. I got to show my sports stacking 2 days after my proper first day back, and showed my Guinness World Records appearance, which they felt, oh my gosh, we've got a person from the Guinness World Records in our class, which was great to see. And I think it is time to now reveal I'm going to be working on a short horror movie of Cyberstalker. Although my really good friend Jack Coughlin is going to be voicing the Cyberstalker. Thank you all so much for using your time to check out my story. So as you can see, I became from a nobody to Britain's most well-known sports stacker. All of you, including my parents, teachers, and even Guinness World Records, have helped me get to where I wanted to end up at. Please rate, comment, subscribe, favourite, share, many more.
Subscribe right now!